Hello and welcome to the installation and setup guide for the Aerpro FP9750GK. This kit suits Falcon and Territory models from BA and BA2 to 2002 to 2005 through to BF and BF2 models from 2005 ending in September 2010. This kit retains the trip computer on a BA Territory top-end models and adds it for the base models. This is what we have included. Gunmetal double DIN fascia with mounting kit and control unit pre-installed, also available in silver. ISO harness, a universal steering wheel control patch lead, video in-out lead, M6 bolts and nuts for the body control module, and the user manual. If your vehicle is equipped with factory reverse parking sensors, a reverse sensor retention module and speaker are available to retain these tones. This kit does not include the top cover panel that sits above the factory head unit. This kit does, however, require the factory panel to be used. Due to the age of these vehicles, this top panel can break, so please take great care in removing this panel. If you have a Ford vehicle with a factory clock, a clock retention harness is available. Please refer to the Aerpro website for details from the link below. You will also need to purchase a head unit ISO harness, specifically to match the type of head unit that you plan to install with this fascia kit. Please visit aerpro.com and type in the head unit you wish to install in order to find what head unit ISO harness you will need. A small chart is also visible on the side of the gift box to help with selection. We will use most of the existing screws from your vehicle for most of the installation, so be careful in placing all removed parts in a safe location for later use. Before we continue, the FP9750GK you are about to install will also control your factory heating and cooling system. To ensure correct functionality, please confirm the factory system is functioning correctly prior to installation. This controller will not fix any prior issues with the heating or cooling system unless the fault lies with the factory head unit. This kit will not convert a single zone vehicle to dual zone. To confirm the factory system is fully functional, follow these steps. Check fan speed control. Check the vents change correctly from footwells to the face vents and then the windscreen vents. Check the system changes temperature correctly. Confirm dual zone separates temperature correctly if your vehicle supports it. Check that the air conditioning compressor can be enabled and disabled at will. If the system is deemed not to be functioning correctly, it is advised to have it fixed before this kit is installed. When installing the fascia kit, please only use a screwdriver to hand tighten the screws. Using a power tool may over-tighten the screws and damage the fascia kit. You will need the following tools to install this kit: Phillips head screwdriver, a prying tool, 8mm ratchet, electrical tape, side cutters, small pick, and cable ties. Lastly, before disassembly, eject any CDs from your factory stereo if applicable, as you will not be able to do so after it is being removed. First, put the car into drive and grab the top of the plastic cover and pull up to take out the piece, being careful not to break it. Now, unscrew the Phillips screw that is revealed from taking off the plastic cover on the gear shift. Once the screw is removed, we can take this part out by lifting it from the bottom and dropping it from the top, as shown here. We will do the same on the other side, again removing the screw and lifting from the bottom and dropping from the top. Next, we will be removing the tissue box. There is a Phillips screw on either side of the tissue box that will need to be removed before pulling it out. We then lift it up, loosening it, then pull towards you. Finally, disconnect the power socket connector. We can then detach the top part of the fascia. We have to gently pry the top part up, where we can pull the back up and then pull it out from the bottom. This reveals a Phillips head screw that is to be unscrewed. We then use an 8mm ratchet to remove the two bolts on either side of the fascia. There are 4 connectors and the antenna adapter that need to be disconnected from underneath the stereo before we can take it out. To take out the stereo, we put one hand on the bottom and the other on the top and pull out. We can now proceed to disassembling the stereo outside the vehicle. First is to remove the main stereo bracket from the existing stereo. There are 2 screws on either side of the bracket that will need to be unscrewed first. Next, on the top section of the stereo, there is a green connector and earth strap that needs to be removed before we can lift this section out. Once freed, there is also the fob transceiver that needs to be taken out by unscrewing a Phillips head screw on either side and loosening it from a cable management clip on the side of the vent. We will then take out the vent section, as this will be reused in the fascia upgrade. To take out the vent, there are 3 screws that need to be unscrewed before the vents can be pulled away from the stereo, 2 on the bottom and 1 on the top center. Moving back to the stereo, we have to remove the blue body control module. We simply unscrew the 4 screws and then lift it out. Before we move on to installing the vents, we can change a few settings on the back of the climate control unit to support a Pioneer head unit, or change from NTSC to PAL for the reverse camera. Please refer to the instruction manual for more details on changing these settings. Now we will grab the vent that was detached from the old stereo and will now attach it into the FP9750GK fascia using the existing screws from the factory head unit. 2 on the bottom and 1 on the top. Please do not over tighten the screws or use a power tool when installing the vents into the new fascia, otherwise you may run the risk of damaging it. We then grab the fob transceiver unit and mount it to the top of the vent, using the screws from the old head unit, and then reattach the wire on the side of the cable clip on the vent. The factory fitted screws used for the central control module will not fit correctly, so we will use the provided N6 bolt and nut set to mount it to the bracket of the FP9750GK. Make sure that the cable to the fob is run under the L bracket. Now we can install our aftermarket head unit. Please note, some full-body double-din units are longer than others, and some may not leave enough clearance behind the unit when installed into the vehicle. It is recommended to check for clearance before continuing the installation. First, we slide in the aftermarket head unit and lightly secure it with a screw on either side. Then adjust the head unit forward or backward, ensuring that the front of the head unit is flush with the fascia. Once in the correct position, tighten the screws to keep it in place. We can then move on to plugging in the cable harnesses. First, plug in the USB cables from the front of the fascia kit. This head unit supports Android Auto and Apple CarPlay over one of the USB ports. Keep in mind which of the 2 USB ports on the fascia that you wanted that feature to be available to. We then connect the video in-out lead from the control unit to the head unit reverse camera input on the radio. If your vehicle supports a reverse camera, we will plug in the reverse camera input into the reverse camera plug. Install the provided primary ISO harness to the control unit. If your vehicle supported a reverse sensor, you would connect this cable to the AP1WAMP box. The next step is to connect the universal patch lead to the control unit and the head unit, ensuring that the correct wire loops on the back of the connector are cut correctly depending on the head unit being used. This step must be done before the system is connected to the car and receives power for the first time. Next is connecting the secondary ISO harness specific to your head unit. In this case, an APP8CLA4 secondary ISO harness was used specifically for this Clarion head unit that is being installed. Make sure that you connect the necessary connectors that are applicable to your model head unit. Once everything is connected and secured, we can move on to installing the system into your vehicle. Connect the other end of the ISO harness to the connector shown here. The loom has a Molex plug that is plugged into the AP1WAMP if you were to retain the reverse sensor audio in your vehicle. You would attach a 5-watt extension speaker to the AP1WAMP via 3.5mm jack, which can be routed through the back of the cavity. Using a screwdriver, you can adjust the volume of the reverse tone if needed. A good starting point is to make sure it is adjusted to halfway. We can then gently place the fascia into the space. Connect the 4 cables to the bottom of the body control module, as shown here. Now would be a good time to set up and test out the head unit and buttons before fixing the system to the vehicle, making sure to test steering wheel controls, climate control buttons, and reverse tone if applicable. If everything works correctly, we can begin fixing the FP9750GK fascia to the vehicle in the reverse order that the factory system was taken out. 2 8mm bolts on either side of the fascia and 1 Phillips head screwed on the top, clipping the top piece back into place, then the side plastic panels, screwing them in on both sides and finally clipping in the plastic cover back onto the gear shift. Now we will move on to how to use the FP9750GK, starting with the rear demister button, front demister button. The arrows on the right adjust the heating and cooling temperature. If you had a dual climate system, this would adjust the right and left climate. Mode changes the different vent combinations. The AC button toggles aircon on or off. Holding down this button will turn off both heating and cooling, which only works for models that have dedicated AC off button prior to upgrade. The fan up and down buttons adjust the fan speed. When heating is on and fan is at 0, no warm air is pushed out. However, if AC is on and fan is at 0, there will still be a small amount of cold air being pushed out through the vents. Trip computer button shows how many kilometers of fuel you have left and average speed and fuel use. The auto button will automatically adjust the climate control system to a specified temperature. This will only work if your vehicle supports a dual climate control system. Door lock toggle. We have the air circulation button switching between the different modes. Traction control button, which only works on supported models prior to upgrade. Next is the in-cabin light toggle. The arrows on the left also adjust the heating and cooling temperature. If you had a dual climate system, it would adjust the left side of the vehicle. The blank middle button is not used. Lastly, the menu button, which will show the climate info screen. To access the configuration menu, we can hold down the menu button for a few seconds. Pressing the menu button again to enter the menu, we can navigate to the preferences of the control unit using the fan up and down buttons. Retained accessory power is to control what the head unit does after the vehicle is turned off. When set to off, the head unit will turn off as soon as the key is taken out of the ignition. When set to on, the head unit will only turn off after the key is taken out and the driver's door is opened. Climate screen timeout is the time it takes for the climate control screen to return to the head unit screen. AC panel brightness is the brightness of the LEDs on the climate control panel. You can also restore factory settings to reset everything to default. Inside the configuration menu, we can access the installer menu if we press the fan up and fan down buttons at the same time. First on the list is where we can change between a single climate system or a dual climate system. However, you can run a dual climate system in single mode if you prefer. You may also notice that when you change the aircon type, the invert AC button option changes. This automatically corrects the difference between the two different types of vehicles and corrects the AC button function. Screen size and position allows you to adjust the control unit's screen, such as menus and climate control screen, if it doesn't quite fit your head unit's display. If your vehicle supported a reverse camera system and was connected when installing the fascia, then this setting should be turned on so that when the car is in reverse, it switches the display automatically. Invert AC button can still be changed manually if your AC button is still inverted. So if you can still feel cold air coming out of your vents when the AC is off, change this option. Diagnostics is a way to check if the steering wheel control buttons and climate buttons work. If you wanted to program a new car remote, the process is the same as stated in the car's manual. You would still press the rear demister 3 times. We recommend using an authorized Aerpro dealer that offers an installation service to install our products. The firmware update cable is only available to authorized dealers. Never cut or modify a harness, as this could damage the head unit and vehicle, as well as void the warranty of the product. This concludes an overview, installation and setup guide of the FP9750GK fascia kit for BA and BF Falcon and the Territory. There is the potential for additional types and compatibilities in future updates. Please visit aerpro.com to check if a new version is available. You do not need to do this if your system is operating correctly. If you have a compatibility issue that cannot be rendered by a firmware update, then please contact us directly to advise us of your situation so we can investigate the issue.